Hello, welcome to Microsoft Excel Level 1 Video 4. And today we're going to finish off some of the basic functions available in Excel. So if you're coming from the previous video, we focused a lot on adding, and near the end we got into the sum function. Based on that, if you've practiced it, this should be great because it's the same type of layout. So one of the things I tried to stress in that previous video was how the sum function is laid out. So whether you're typing it in manually or you're using the auto sum, it is the basis on how all of the functions work in Excel. So today we're going to make this one shortly, and we're going to do a little bit of statistical analysis. So we're going to learn today the min function for the minimum, max, which is the maximum, and of course average. All three of those functions basically perform identically to the sum. Before we get to that though, I'm going to flip us over to sheet 2, and we're going to do a few examples and breakdown of how this works first. So what I have here is on a blank sheet, and I'll zoom in a little bit more for you so you can see a bit better, is we're going to do an example for min, and then max, and then average. So you can go ahead and pause the video right now for a moment and type these in for yourself. Okay, so min stands for minimum. We're looking at the smallest number in a range. So I've given us 4 numbers in each of our columns for us to work for. 4 is obviously quite simple to figure which the minimum number is, but in a bigger sense, as you just saw on the opening screen, we're looking at a hockey statistic example. It might be a bit more tricky when we've got 20 or so numbers, or even way more than that. So once our data is listed there, we can go ahead and look for the minimum or the smallest number in a data range. Now, I'm using the answers right besides our data here, but as you looked on the previous sheet, in our hockey example, it actually is going to have the answers in a different location. That's on purpose. I want you to see that, as I mentioned in video 1, the answers don't have to be right beside the data. We can put those in a different location. Now that, of course, is a building block into our level 3 videos where we're going to see using data from 2 different sources and 2 different locations then. So these are all building blocks as we move forward. Okay, so here we go. Minimum, as I said, is the smallest number. It is a function though, and just like every other math or function piece in Excel, we always start with the equal sign. So go ahead and press the equal sign. Next, our function name. And yes, it's min, M-I-N, which stands for minimum. And our little helper pops up along the side, and just like before, we ignore that. Shift and number 9 gives us an open bracket. Okay, I'm going to now take my mouse, just like we did for the sum function, and I'm going to hold it down on the first data box. So that would be A2 for me. White cross, hold the mouse button down, pull, pull, pull to highlight all of our data. Let go. Just like before, make sure you do not select the cell that has the equation. That will give you an error. Okay, we're going to confirm. We have A2 colon A5, which is all blue. Our marching answer around our box, all blue. Perfect. Shift and 0 closes that bracket. Press enter, and our answer is 5. Minimum. Smallest number in a selected data range. Yes, it's 5. And we can always check to make sure that our practice example is still working correctly. As I said before, Excel's math is dynamic. Let's click on that 5 and change that to a 10. And when we press enter, our answer will change to 7, which is the next lowest number in our data range. So minimum. Take a moment to kind of think how many things you could use that for, right? So we're looking at the lowest number of registrations from a certain area. We're looking at the smallest family size in a listing of families. The possibilities are infinite of where you would use it in a daily basis. Okay, if you want to pause the video at this time and go back and practice a couple more with the min, feel free to do that. Okay, off to the max. Max is the exact opposite. We're looking at the largest number in a data range. So here we go. Equal sign, always to start with. Now it's M-A-X for maximum. Shift and 9 gives me an open bracket. Now we choose our data range. So taking my white cross on our first number, hold the left mouse button down, pull, pull, pull to highlight all 4 cells. Let go. Shift and 0 to close the bracket. And there we have it, equals max open bracket. Now mine is column D. It depends what column you're using. Your letters might be different. So I've got D2 colon D5. The big thing to look at is we keep saying over and over again, ensure that everything is got the shading of the color correct and it matches what we have in our equation. Press your enter key on your keyboard. Our largest number in this data range is 8. Okay, last one is average. So I'm going to give a click on our average. Same thing as before, we always start with an equal sign. Now there is no short 3-letter acronym for average, unfortunately. So A-V-E-R-A-G-E. You have to type the entire word out. Shift and 9 for that open bracket again. Using your mouse, we're going to select cells G2, sorry, and pull, pull, pull all the way down to our last one. So for me, it's G2 colon G5, shift and 0 to close the bracket. Average is the middle number. So what's the middle of the data range that we have? So between 1 and 9, press enter, 4.75. Okay, now before I flip over and we're going to take a look at the activity for you for today, I'm going to show you again our expansion piece. So if you remember in the previous video, I talked about using Control and the accent button along the left side of your keyboard. I'm going to press both those now. It's going to pop open. Now because I'm zoomed in, it's a bit harder to see. So I'm going to shrink some cells down a little bit here, just so that we can try to squeeze everything in together. So I'm doing a manual shrink right now. Remember, that's the drag and drop option. And I'm just doing this to try and squeeze it all back in. So here we go. By using the Control and the tilde, the accent key, I'm able to pop open all the equations on the page at once. I will do this a couple of times for you throughout level 2 and level 3 videos so you can see all the math that we're practicing together. But here we go. This is a great one to do a bit of a screen capture with. There's your minimum example and the function for that one, our max, and then of course the average. The thing to note, if you remember back from the previous video when we did the sum function, it's all the same. Okay, so equals the function name, data range in brackets. So regardless of whether the function is the sum or min or max or average, it's the same thing over and over. That's why I try to tie these equation pieces together. So min, max, average in this video and ending the previous video with the sum function. It's awesome practice because we're doing the same steps over and over again. These, as I keep saying, are building blocks towards the if function, which is our level 2 video, and then into VLOOKUP, which we're going to take a look at in the level 3 videos as well. Okay, so if you want to pause at this time, delete and recreate, practice these ones a few times for yourself. That would be really a great idea just to get proficient with this, to feel comfortable with it. Okay, remember also when we're done with this, we want to put it back to what it was looking at before. This expanded view is great, but we shouldn't stay at this one because we can't see our answers. So once again, hold down your Control key, press the accent key. That's the key just below your escape key on the top left corner. And it goes back to our answers. All right, so I'm going to flip us back over to sheet 1. And here is now a real world practical type of approach. I've taken a chunk out of a stat piece that I made before for a class. And what we have here, of course, is the Eastern Conference hockey teams from several years back. And they've played a certain amount of games at this point. And here's their wins, here's their losses, and here's their ties. And what I've done over here is we're going to take a look. Well, let's see, I'll change the point one because I don't have a point column on there anymore. We're going to say losses. Do just a wins and losses side. And we're going to find out the most wins, the most losses, the fewest wins, the fewest losses, and the average amount of losses, the average amount of wins. You could keep going on and on. If we had the entire season with all the teams, this is that math analysis side or the data analysis side that you do. So past the point of just doing data entry, and then there's some basic math over here that'll pop up as well for you. Oh no, sorry, I didn't bring that column in. So we're just going straight with wins, loss, ties. So what I'll have you do here is you'll pause the video right away and you can create this one out. It's really encouraged that you stay in kind of the same spots that I am. So for example, Philadelphia's games played, the data part here actually starts on column B, row 3. So if you want to skip out some parts over here and just do the data, that's okay. But make sure that you put your data in the same spots. Otherwise, when we go to do our equations together over here after, your data spots will not be the same as mine, and that could cause a bit of confusion for you. So as a quick recap from before, this is a merged cell across the top and a much larger font. This is a size 20 and it's bold. It's got some blue in the background for Eastern Conference. These next row of labels that we have, they're just caps and bold at size 12 with some red behind them. And then I went orange for our team names below that one. After that, it's our games played. That's what GP stands for. The wins, losses, and the ties. Over here, you can put your block anywhere you want. I put them off to the side just to be different. Up until now, we've been doing our equations and our math right below all of our data stream on the side. This might change. We may have other teams coming in. The NHL is getting a new team next year. So putting your answers in the area where the data is not actually commonly done. A lot of times we do our math and our answers elsewhere, just so that there is room to expand our data along the side. So go ahead and pause the video now, and you can create all of this data in, and then press play again when you're finished, and we will get into working on a bit of the math. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to get everything in correctly. Over on the side here, min, max, average, min, max, average. I'll explain about it again, and I'll give you a chance to pause if you want to do it on your own. If not, then you can just follow along with me and we'll create them together. So min, max, and average for our losses. So I'm taking a look at our loss column over here. That's the data that I would be using for those ones. So minimum losses would be the team that has the least amount of losses that are there. So how would I do that? When we're talking about the smallest or the fewest or any of those key words we have to look at in the problem, that gives us a clue as to what function name to use. So the fewest losses, well, that's going to be a minimum number. That's a low number. So we use the min equals min, shift and 9 to open the bracket. Next, I need my data range. So this is pretty easy. I take my mouse and I'm going to use the white cross over the first number under the loss column and hold the mouse button down and pull down. Oops, sorry, got stuck there. Oops, hang on, I'm caught up under my mouse pad. Here we go. Pull to highlight all the way down to our last one, let go. And I'm gonna make sure that the marching ants are around all of my data files. I confirm over here equals min open bracket D3 colon D17. So D3 to D17 is correct. Shift and 0 to close the bracket and enter. So 15 is the least amount of losses. Okay, and we have a couple of 15s up in here. Max means the most amount of losses, so the opposite of min, but again, the same function style equals max, open bracket. Take my mouse, and again, we're talking about the losses column, so I'm going to highlight that whole column and let go. D3 to D17 again, same as before. Shift and 0 to close the bracket. And enter. The maximum losses on a team has is 42. Okay, last piece is our average losses. So kind of middle of the road, what are teams getting? Once again, equals, now AVERAGE, shift and 9 to open the bracket. And we'll highlight our losses column one last time. D3 to D17, shift and 0. And there's our average losses. Enter. 24.13 is the average amount that a team has lost games this season. Okay, next question usually comes to mind that people have for me at this point is, well, those numbers are great, but that's useless. 15, well, what team was that? 42, what team was that? Awesome, awesome questions to ask. In the fundamental side of Excel, we have our data, And we have our equations like this. What you're asking for with connecting that number then back to what team it was, that's an extra piece that would come later on. So at this stage, that part's a little bit too much when we get into what we would call conditional formatting or some of the lookups side of things that we could use with that. You can do it, but that's just the next step or the next level beyond. So that would come at a later point of explaining that side. So there you go. There's our min, max, average. Some people do not like this giant number that came up for our average, 24.13333333. We can fix that too. So let's go ahead and do that one before we head off to the wins. Over here is a section where we talk about a little bit of our cell formatting. And we mentioned this stuff a couple of times in the first two videos. And over here is decrease decimal place. So if we do this button a few times, what's going to happen is that it's going to kind of get rid of some of those decimal numbers and shrink them down. More commonly than not, for an activity like this one, we would want just a whole number of 24. We would round that up to a whole number. If this is banking statements or it's something with mutual funds or something really financial, then decimal places really matter. Us, it doesn't. So let's round that up. So how does that work? I have the cell chosen. So highlight the cell that has the big decimal number. And over here, this button that says decrease decimal. So you start clicking that one and it's going to just keep rounding up, rounding up, rounding up, rounding up until we get to 24. If it was 24.6, it would round that up to 25, obviously. Okay, so there's a quick look at min, max, and average for the losses. Go ahead and pause the video at this time, and you can do the win section on your own if you want to give it a chance. And what I'll do is I'll just pause for a second for you, and then I'll start doing that one as well. Okay, so here we go. Welcome back. Hopefully you're able to figure it out on your own. If not, let's practice together. Equals MIN, shift and 9. And now we're in the wins. So remember, don't grab the losses column anymore. We're now looking at the wins column. So I'm going to go over here with the white cross, hold down my left mouse button, pull down to highlight everything in the win column, shift and 0. And there's our equation. Equals min, open bracket, C3 colon C17, close bracket. Okay, I press enter, and 12 is the lowest number of wins so far this league. Okay, here we go with max, equals MAX, shift and 9 to open bracket. Once again, I'm going to highlight the win column with the white cross, holding down my left mouse button and pulling. Shift and 0 to close the bracket. Equals max, open bracket, C3 colon C17, close bracket. Enter. Most wins was 34. That is correct. There are a couple of those. Last one is our average again. Equals AVERAGE, shift and 9 to open the bracket. Average wins. Hold and pull to select and highlight the column. Confirm that the blue is selected correctly. Shift and 0 to close the bracket. So it's equals average, open bracket, C3 colon C17. Enter. Big number again. We can round this one. Now this one's going to be good because 26.46, 6666667, this is going to round up to 27. So watch. I'm going to go up here to decrease decimal place. Tap, 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 tap. One more tap gives me 26.5. One more tap rounds. Oh, it stayed at 26. Okay. I thought we would have jumped up. And there you go. There's your average. So the last one I'm going to leave you with for homework, we're going to do one merge together here on top, and I'm going to have you do the same thing for ties. So let's practice. We'll make another block of these over here, and we'll give you some to do for homework. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to hold the button down, the left mouse button. I'm going to pull across once to select both those cells. I'm going to hit merge and center. I'm going to go across and dump some more red paint in. You don't have to, you can leave it without paint, that's fine. And then I'm going to go back and click on that cell, and I'm going to type in ties. There's my label. Below that one, M-I-N, enter, M-A-X, enter, A-V-E-R-A-G-E, enter. Last piece, these ones are all bold, so I'll do the same thing. So I'm going to put my mouse with the white cross in the middle of the first label, hold the button down, left button, pull, pull to highlight all three, let go. We'll head back over here under Calibri or whichever font you're using right now. There's a letter B for bold. So I'm going to give that a hit. And there you go. So what I've left you here for homework to try out is the min, max, and average for the ties. Exactly the same that we've just done several times over and over again for the losses and for the wins. Try to make this one on your own. If you're lost or get confused, you can rewind the video and watch the one that we did for the losses or the wins, because those will all still be the same. Thanks for watching.